The Galactic Academy Challenge. The gleaming spires of the Galactic Combat Academy pierced the pink-tinged sky of Zeta Centauri IV, a testament to the united effort of a dozen species to create the ultimate training ground for the galaxy's finest warriors. Inside the Academy's main lecture hall, an air of anticipation hung heavy as students from across the cosmos settled into their seats. Professor Xilnak, a towering Andromedan with iridescent scales and 4 arms, cleared his throat, or what passed for a throat in his species. "Attention, cadets," he rumbled, his voice carrying effortlessly across the hall. "Today marks the beginning of your final challenge. For the past 3 cycles, you have trained in the art of galactic combat. Now, it's time to prove your worth." A chorus of excited chitters, growls, and whistles erupted from the assembled students. Xilnak raised 2 of his hands, calling for silence. "This year, we have a special treat," he continued, a hint of mischief in his compound eyes. "The Galactic Council has approved an exchange program with a newly discovered species. They call themselves humans." The word sent a ripple of curiosity through the room. Humans were still an enigma to most of the galaxy, having only recently achieved faster-than-light travel and joined the interstellar community. "One human cadet will join your ranks for this final challenge," Xilnak explained. "Consider this an opportunity to learn about a new culture and test your adaptability, crucial skills for any galactic peacekeeper." In the front row, Zixera, a lithe Velocirian with feathers that shimmered like an oil slick, leaned forward. "Professor," she chirped, her avian features twisted in confusion, "I thought humans were classified as Deathworlders. Isn't it dangerous to bring one here?" Xilnak's scales rippled in what his students recognized as amusement. "Your concern is noted, Cadet Zixera. Yes, humans come from a high-gravity world with extreme climate variations and aggressive fauna. However, they have proven to be more adaptable than we initially believed." From the back of the room, a deep, resonant hum emanated. It was Gloop, a Jovian gas giant native whose amorphous body was contained within a hovering environment suit. "But Professor," Gloop's translator device intoned, "how will a human keep up with our advanced combat techniques? Their technology is centuries behind ours." "An excellent question, Cadet Gloop," Xilnak replied. "The human's physical capabilities may surprise you. Remember, not all strength comes from technology. Now let's discuss the parameters of your final challenge." The professor activated a holographic display, showing a vast, multi-terrain training ground. "You will be divided into teams, each tasked with capturing and holding strategic points across this simulated battlefield. The challenge will test your physical prowess, tactical thinking, and teamwork." As Xilnak delved into the details of the challenge, the students' excitement grew. The prospect of facing a Deathworlder in combat, even a simulated one, added an extra layer of thrill to the already daunting task. Little did they know that light years away on a blue-green planet called Earth, a young human was preparing for a journey that would change the galaxy's perception of her species forever. Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Government's Space Force Command, her posture rigid and eyes forward. At just 25 years old, she had already distinguished herself as one of Earth's top combat specialists, with a particular talent for adaptive strategy. "Lieutenant Chen," General Rodriguez addressed her, his voice gruff but tinged with pride. "You understand the gravity of this mission?" "Yes, sir," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "I'm to represent humanity at the Galactic Combat Academy, participate in their final challenge, and how did you put it, sir? Show them what Earthlings are made of." A ripple of chuckles went through the assembled officers. Rodriguez's mustache twitched in a suppressed smile. "Precisely, Lieutenant. This is more than just a training exercise. It's our chance to establish humanity's place in the galactic community. Many species out there still see us as primitive, barely out of our trees. It's time to change that perception." Sarah nodded, her determination evident in the set of her jaw. "I won't let you down, sir. I won't let humanity down." As Sarah left the briefing room to prepare for her interstellar journey, she couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She had trained all her life for challenges, pushed herself beyond what most humans thought possible. But how would she measure up against beings from across the galaxy? Back at the Galactic Combat Academy, Professor Zilnak was concluding his briefing. "Remember, cadets," he said, his voice solemn, "this challenge is not just about victory. It's about growth, understanding, and pushing beyond your limits. Prepare yourselves, for in one standard week, your final test begins." As the students filed out of the lecture hall, the air buzzed with speculation about their mysterious human competitor. Would she be a giant, as some legends suggested? Would she possess strange, otherworldly powers? Or would she be a frail creature, easy to defeat? Little did they know that Sarah Chen, the human who would soon join their ranks, was asking herself the very same questions about them. As two worlds prepared to collide, the stage was set for a clash that would redefine the galaxy's understanding of strength, adaptability, and the indomitable human spirit. The Galactic Combat Academy's final challenge was about to begin, and with it, a new chapter in interstellar relations. The galaxy watched, waited, and wondered. What surprises did this Deathworlder have in store? Unexpected human arrival. The sleek interstellar shuttle glided into the docking bay of the Galactic Combat Academy, its Earth-made design standing out among the more exotic vessels. As the airlock hissed open, a hush fell over the gathered crowd of alien cadets and instructors. They craned their necks, tentacles, and sensory appendages in anticipation, eager for their first glimpse of the human. Sarah Chen stepped out, her movements deliberate and controlled in the slightly lower gravity. She stood at an unassuming 5'7", her athletic build evident even under her form-fitting Earth Space Force uniform. The assembled aliens blinked, chirped, and buzzed in surprise. This was not the towering giant or grotesque monster many had expected. Professor Zilnak moved forward, his forearms spread wide in a universal gesture of welcome. "Lieutenant Sarah Chen," he rumbled, "on behalf of the Galactic Combat Academy, I bid you welcome." Sarah saluted crisply, then extended her hand. "Thank you, Professor Zilnak. I'm honored to be here." The Andromedan hesitated for a moment before carefully grasping Sarah's hand with one of his own. The gathered crowd murmured in fascination at the alien greeting ritual. "Come," Zilnak said, gesturing towards the Academy's main building. "Let me introduce you to your fellow cadets." As they walked, Sarah felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. She maintained her composure, her training kicking in as she analyzed her surroundings and the beings she passed. The diversity was staggering. Creatures of all shapes, sizes, and compositions, some seemingly defying the laws of physics as she understood them. They entered a large auditorium where the rest of the final-year cadets were assembled. Zilnak guided Sarah to the front and turned to address the group. "Cadets, I present to you Lieutenant Sarah Chen of Earth. She will be joining you for the final challenge. I expect you all to make her feel welcome and to learn from this unique opportunity." A tentative applause rippled through the audience. Sarah nodded acknowledgement, her eyes scanning the crowd, assessing potential allies and competitors. Zixara, the Velasirian, was the first to approach. She circled Sarah, her feathers shimmering as she moved. "So, you're the Deathworlder," she chirped, her translator rendering her words into English. "You're smaller than I expected." Sarah met Zixara's gaze steadily. "Size isn't everything," she replied with a slight smile. "It's how you use what you have that counts." A deep, resonant laugh drew their attention. Gloop's amorphous form wobbled as he approached. "Well said, human. I am Gloop. My kind are often underestimated too." As more cadets gathered around, introducing themselves and asking questions, Sarah felt a mix of curiosity and wariness from the group. She answered their queries diplomatically, careful not to reveal too much about Earth's military capabilities or her own skills. One cadet, a crystalline being named Zirax, chimed in with a question that had been on many minds. Is it true that humans engage in recreational combat for fun? We've heard stories of your sports and martial arts. Sarah nodded, a grin spreading across her face. That's right. Many of us enjoy testing our limits and skills against each other. It's not just about combat, though. It's about discipline, respect, and self-improvement. The aliens exchanged glances, a mix of confusion and intrigue on their faces. The idea of seeking out physical challenge for enjoyment was foreign to many of them. As the meet and greet continued, Sarah's keen eyes noticed a group hanging back, watching her with what she interpreted as disdain. They were Mavorians, a species known for their logical minds and disdain for lesser races. Sarah made a mental note to watch out for them during the challenge. Professor Zilnak eventually called for attention. Cadets, you have one standard day to rest and prepare. Tomorrow, we begin the pre-challenge training and briefings. Dismissed. As the crowd dispersed, Zixera turned to Sarah. Some of us are gathering later to discuss strategy. Would you like to join us? Sarah smiled, recognizing the olive branch for what it was. I'd be happy to. Thank you. Later that evening, in a common area designed to accommodate multiple species, Sarah found herself in deep discussion with a diverse group of cadets. They pored over holographic maps of the challenge terrain, debating tactics and sharing knowledge of each other's strengths and weaknesses. The Mavorians will likely target the high ground immediately, Zyrax chimed, his crystalline body reflecting the holomap's light. They always prioritize tactical advantage over direct confrontation. Gloop's amorphous form rippled in agreement. True, but they struggle in aquatic environments. If we can lure them into the wetland section, we'd have an advantage. Sarah listened intently, absorbing the wealth of information. When she spoke, her words were measured and thoughtful. On Earth, we have a saying, play to your strengths, but never ignore your weaknesses. We need to be prepared for anything. As the discussion continued late into the night, Sarah felt a growing sense of camaraderie with these alien beings. Despite their differences, they shared a common goal and a warrior's spirit. She also couldn't shake the feeling that many of them were underestimating her. A misconception she was more than happy to maintain for now. In her quarters later, as she performed her nightly calisthenics routine, much to the fascination of her roommate, a gravity-defying Etherian named Lyra, Sarah reflected on the day's events. She had taken the first steps in representing humanity to the galaxy, but the real test was yet to come. As she completed her final set of push-ups, Sarah allowed herself a small, determined smile. Tomorrow, the training would begin in earnest, and she would show these aliens exactly what a human could do. The galaxy thought they knew what to expect from a Deathworlder, but Sarah Chen was about to redefine their understanding of strength, adaptability, and the indomitable human spirit. Little did the Galactic Combat Academy know, they were about to witness the dawn of a new era in interstellar relations, one push-up at a time. Training days and cultural clashes. The first rays of Zeta Centauri IV's twin suns had barely crept over the horizon when Sarah Chen found herself standing in the Academy's main training arena. Around her, alien cadets of various species were stretching, calibrating exoskeletons, or engaging in species-specific warm-up routines. Professor Zilnak's voice boomed across the arena. Today, we assess your current capabilities and begin specialized training for the final challenge. You will rotate through various stations, each designed to test a different aspect of combat readiness. Sarah nodded, her face a mask of concentration. As she moved to the first station, a complex obstacle course that seemed to defy gravity, she could feel the eyes of her fellow cadets upon her. Some gazed with curiosity, others with skepticism, and a few with unmistakable hostility. The obstacle course proved to be a grueling test of agility, strength, and spatial awareness. Sarah's human physiology, evolved on a high-gravity world with complex terrain, gave her a surprising edge. She leaped, climbed, and maneuvered through the course with a fluid grace that left many of her alien counterparts stunned. As she cleared the final hurdle, landing with cat-like precision, she heard a low whistle from Zixera. By the cosmic winds, the Velasirian chirped, "You move like a predator." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Thanks. Your feathered form is pretty impressive too. I've never seen anyone navigate an anti-grav field so smoothly." Their budding camaraderie was interrupted by a snide comment from Krax, one of the Mavorian cadets. "Impressive for a primitive species, I suppose. But raw physical ability means little without tactical acumen." Before Sarah could respond, they were ushered to the next station, a holographic battle simulation. Here, Krax's words seemed prophetic as Sarah struggled to adapt to the advanced alien weaponry and unfamiliar battle scenarios. The Mavorians, with their logical minds and advanced technological understanding, dominated this challenge. As the day progressed, a pattern emerged. Sarah excelled in physical challenges and showed remarkable adaptability, quickly learning to use her human strengths to advantage in alien environments. However, she lagged behind in tests involving advanced technology and complex galactic political scenarios. During a brief respite, Gloop oozed over to where Sarah was catching her breath. "You surprise us, human," the Jovian's translator intoned. "Your species is young in galactic terms, yet you show great potential." Sarah wiped sweat from her brow, grinning at the amorphous alien. "Thanks, Gloop. I'm learning a lot too. Your ability to alter your molecular density is incredible." Their conversation was cut short as Professor Xilmac called for attention. "For the final exercise of the day, we will engage in hand-to-hand combat drills. Pair up with someone of a different species. The goal is not to win, but to learn and adapt to different physiologies." Sarah found herself facing Xirax, the crystalline being. They circled each other warily, each unsure how to approach a physiology so different from their own. Xirax made the first move, his crystalline arm elongating suddenly in a jabbing motion. Sarah dodged, her human reflexes allowing her to narrowly avoid the strike. She retaliated with a swift kick, only to wince as her foot connected with Xirax's hard surface. "Apologies," Xirax chimed, concern tinging his resonant voice. "Are you injured?" Sarah shook her head, a determined glint in her eye. "I'm fine. Good move, by the way. Let's continue." As they sparred, Sarah began to adapt her techniques. She focused on grappling and leverage rather than strikes, using Xirax's crystalline nature against him. By the end of the session, they had reached a stalemate, each having learned valuable lessons about the other's capabilities. As the cadets dispersed for the day, exhausted but exhilarated, Sarah overheard snippets of conversation. "Did you see the human in the obstacle course? Unbelievable." "Yes, but she was lost in the political simulation, hardly fit for galactic peacekeeping." "Don't underestimate her. She learns quickly." That evening, as Sarah sat with her growing circle of alien friends in the Academy's diverse cuisine hall, the conversation turned to a cultural exchange. Lyra, Sarah's Aetherian roommate, asked, "Sarah, we've all heard stories about Earth being a death world. What's it really like?" Sarah paused, considering how to explain her homeworld to beings from such different environments. "Earth is diverse. We have scorching deserts and freezing tundras, deep oceans and tall mountains. Life there has had to adapt to constant change and challenge." She smiled wryly. "I guess that's why we humans are the way we are. We're used to facing adversity." Zixera tilted her head, feathers shimmering with curiosity. "But surely with your technology, you've overcome these hardships." Sarah shook her head. "We've learned to coexist with our world, not to completely control it. That's part of our strength. We're always ready for the unexpected." As the conversation flowed, touching on topics from Earth cuisine to human social structures, Sarah felt a growing sense of connection with her alien comrades. Despite their physiological differences, they shared a common goal and a warrior's spirit. However, not everyone was warming to the human presence. Across the hall, Krax and his fellow Mavorians watched the interspecies gathering with thinly veiled disdain. "Look at them," Krax muttered to his companions. fawning over that primitive. She may have some physical capabilities, but she'll never truly understand galactic politics or advanced combat theory. One of his companions, Vex, nodded in agreement. We'll show them all in the final challenge. Logic and superior technology will prevail. As the day drew to a close, Sarah lay in her quarters, mind racing with all she had learned. She knew she had made progress, but also recognized how far she had to go. The final challenge loomed on the horizon, a test that would push her to her limits and beyond. With a determined sigh, Sarah pulled out her datapad and began reviewing galactic political histories and advanced weapons schematics. She had shown them what a human body could do. Now it was time to show them what a human mind was capable of. As Zeta Centauri IV's moons cast their pale light through the window, Sarah Chen prepared for the challenges ahead, ready to prove that humanity's place in the galaxy was not just as survivors of a harsh world, but as innovators, warriors, and peacekeepers worthy of standing alongside the most advanced species in the cosmos. The stage was set for a showdown that would challenge preconceptions, forge unlikely alliances, and perhaps change the course of galactic history. And at the center of it all, a young human woman with the weight of her entire species' reputation on her shoulders. The simulated combat trial. The day of the final challenge dawned, casting an eerie purple light across the Galactic Combat Academy's sprawling grounds. Sarah Chen stood at the ready, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Around her, her fellow cadets were making last-minute preparations, checking equipment, and exchanging nervous glances. Professor Xilnek's voice boomed across the assembly area. Cadets, the time has come. You will be divided into 4 teams, each tasked with capturing and holding strategic points across our simulated battlefield. Remember, this is not just a test of strength, but of strategy, adaptability, and teamwork. Sarah found herself assigned to the blue team, along with Zixera, Gloop, and 3 other aliens she had come to know over the past week. To her dismay, she noticed that Krax and his Mavorian cohorts had been placed on the opposing red team. As the teams gathered for last-minute strategizing, Zixera turned to Sarah. What's our play, human? You've shown a knack for unconventional thinking. Sarah paused, considering. We need to be unpredictable. The other teams, especially the Mavorians, will be expecting us to follow standard galactic combat doctrine. Let's show them something new. With a shimmer of holographic energy, the cadets were transported to their starting positions in the vast, multi-terrain simulation. Sarah found herself in a dense alien forest, the air thick with spores and bioluminescent particles. In the distance, she could make out the first objective, a towering crystal spire that pulsed with energy. Blue team, move out, Sarah commanded, taking point. As they advanced, she kept her senses alert, watching for signs of the other teams. The diverse nature of her teammates proved advantageous. Gloop's amorphous form allowed for silent scouting, while Zixera's keen avian senses provided early warning of approaching enemies. As they neared the crystal spire, a barrage of energy blasts erupted from a nearby ridge. The red team, led by Krax, had beaten them to the high ground. Sarah's mind raced, recalling the terrain maps they had studied. Gloop, can you infiltrate that ridge through the porous rock face? The Jovian's amorphous form rippled with excitement. Affirmative, human. I shall be their most unpleasant surprise. While Gloop oozed away on his covert mission, Sarah led the rest of the team in a frontal assault, using the dense underbrush as cover. The Mavorians, confident in their superior position, focused their fire on the advancing blue team. They were unprepared for Gloop's sudden appearance in their midst. The Jovian's gelatinous form engulfed their weapons, rendering them useless. In the ensuing chaos, Sarah and her team surged forward, quickly overwhelming the red team's position. As they secured the crystal spire, Sarah couldn't help but grin at Krax's dumbfounded expression. Unconventional enough for you, she quipped. The Mavorian's face contorted with a mix of anger and grudging respect. This isn't over, human. There are still 2 more objectives to capture. As the simulation progressed, the challenges grew increasingly complex. The second objective was located in a zero-gravity zone, forcing the teams to adapt their tactics drastically. Sarah's experience with spacecraft operations gave Blue Team an edge, as she quickly devised a method of using tethers and controlled bursts of compressed air to maneuver effectively. The final objective proved to be the most daunting: a submerged fortress in a methane sea. Here, many of the teams struggled, their diverse physiologies ill-suited to the alien environment. But Sarah's team had prepared for this. During their strategy sessions, Sarah had suggested a radical idea: using Gloop's malleable form to create protective bubbles for the rest of the team. It was risky, untested, and more than a little claustrophobic, but it worked. Blue Team slipped into the methane sea while their competitors floundered on the shore. As they navigated the submerged labyrinth, Sarah's mind worked overtime, coordinating her team's movements and watching for traps. They were close to victory, but she knew better than to underestimate their opponents. Sure enough, as they approached the fortress's central chamber, they found the red team waiting. Krax and his Mavorians had somehow managed to access the fortress through a different route. "Surrender, human," Krax called out, his voice distorted by the methane atmosphere. "You're outnumbered and outgunned. Your primitive tactics won't save you here." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "You still don't get it, do you? Our strength isn't in our weapons or our technology. It's in our ability to adapt, to work together despite our differences." She glanced at her teammates, seeing the determination in their eyes. "We're not here to fight you. We're here to show you a better way." What followed was not the brutal confrontation Krax had expected, but a display of teamwork and ingenuity that left the Mavorians stunned. Blue Team moved as one, each member complementing the other's strengths and covering their weaknesses. Sarah's human agility, Zixera's precise strikes, Gloop's fluid defense, and the other's unique abilities combined in a symphony of coordinated action. In a matter of minutes, Blue Team had not only secured the objective, but had also managed to incapacitate the Red Team without causing serious harm. As the simulation ended and the holographic environments faded away, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then, to Sarah's surprise, Krax approached her, his expression one of begrudging admiration. "I may have misjudged you, human. Your species has much to teach us about adaptability and unconventional thinking." Sarah smiled, extending her hand in the human gesture of reconciliation. "And we have much to learn from you about technology and galactic politics. Maybe that's the point of all this, to show that we're stronger together than apart." As the cadets gathered for the post-challenge debriefing, there was a palpable sense of change in the air. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion or disdain were now engaged in animated discussions, sharing insights and laughing over the day's events. Professor Xilnak's voice cut through the chatter. "Cadets, you have all performed admirably. But more importantly, you have learned the most crucial lesson of all, the strength of diversity. In the vastness of our galaxy, it is not uniformity that will ensure peace and progress, but our ability to understand and value our differences." As Sarah stood among her alien comrades, she felt a swell of pride. She had come to the Galactic Combat Academy to prove humanity's worth, but she had achieved something far greater. She had helped forge connections across the stars, laying the groundwork for a more united and understanding galaxy. The challenge was over, but Sarah knew that the real work was just beginning. As she looked around at the beings she now called friends, she realized that this was more than just a training exercise. It was the dawn of a new era in galactic cooperation, and humanity was ready to play its part. Aftermath and new perspectives. The days following the final challenge were a whirlwind of activity at the Galactic Combat Academy. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically, with species that had once kept to themselves now mingling freely, exchanging ideas, and forming new friendships. At the center of it all was Sarah Chen, the human who had defied expectations and helped bridge gaps between vastly different cultures. As Sarah made her way to the grand amphitheater for the graduation ceremony, she found herself flanked by Zixara and Gloop. The Velisirian's feathers shimmered with excitement, while Gloop's amorphous form seemed to quiver with anticipation. "Can you believe it's already over?" Zixara chirped. "It feels like just yesterday we were all eyeing each other suspiciously in the lecture hall." Sarah chuckled. "And now look at us. I never thought I'd count a sentient gas cloud and a feathered reptile among my closest friends." Gloop's form rippled in what Sarah had come to recognize as laughter. "The feeling is mutual, human. You've taught us much about the power of adaptability and unconventional thinking." As they entered the amphitheater, Sarah was struck by the sight of thousands of beings from across the galaxy, all gathered to witness this momentous occasion. In the front row, she spotted a familiar face, General Rodriguez from Earth's Space Force, beaming with pride. Professor Xilnak took the stage, his 4 arms raised for silence. "Esteemed graduates, honored guests, today marks not just the completion of your training, but the beginning of a new era in galactic relations." He went on to praise the cadets' performances in the final challenge, highlighting moments of exceptional bravery, ingenuity, and cooperation. When he came to Blue Team's unorthodox tactics in the Methane Sea, Sarah felt a swell of pride. "And now," Xilnak continued, "I have a special announcement. In light of the unprecedented success of our interspecies exchange program, the Galactic Council has decided to establish a permanent human liaison office at the Academy. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, would you please join me on stage?" Stunned, Sarah made her way to the podium amidst thunderous applause, a cacophony of claps, whistles, chirps, and other alien sounds of approval. "Lieutenant Chen," Xilnak rumbled, "your performance here has shown us that humanity has much to offer the galactic community. We would be honored if you would accept the position of Human Liaison Officer to continue fostering understanding and cooperation between Earth and the rest of the galaxy." Sarah's mind raced. This was more than she had ever dreamed of when she'd first arrived at the Academy. She thought of Earth, of her family and friends back home. But as she looked out at the sea of alien faces, beings she now called friends, she knew her path forward. "Professor Xilnak, esteemed members of the Galactic Council," Sarah began, her voice steady and clear, "I am deeply honored by this offer. On behalf of humanity, I accept this position with gratitude and determination. We may be newcomers to the galactic stage, but we are eager to learn, to contribute, and to stand alongside all of you in the pursuit of peace and progress across the stars." The amphitheater erupted in cheers. Even the Mavorians, led by Krax, were applauding, their earlier disdain replaced by genuine respect. As the ceremony concluded and the newly graduated cadets dispersed to celebrate, Sarah found herself approached by General Rodriguez. "Lieutenant Chen," he said, his voice gruff but filled with pride. "You've done Earth proud. This liaison position. It's more than we could have hoped for. You've opened doors for humanity that we never even knew existed." Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of her new responsibilities. "Thank you, sir. I'll do my best to represent Earth and foster good relations with our galactic neighbors." As the celebration continued into the night, Sarah found moments to connect with many of her fellow graduates. Zixara was headed back to her home world to implement new training programs inspired by their experiences. Gloop was joining a deep space exploration mission, eager to put his adaptive abilities to use in uncharted territories. Even Krax saw her out, his earlier hostility completely evaporated. "I owe you an apology, Sarah," he said, using her first name for the first time. "I was wrong about humans, and about you. Your species' ability to think outside established parameters is admirable. I look forward to working with you in the future." As the twin moons of Zeta Centauri IV rose in the sky, Sarah found a quiet moment to herself on a balcony overlooking the Academy grounds. She thought about how far she'd come, from a young cadet on Earth dreaming of the stars, to a key figure in humanity's galactic future. The vastness of space stretched out before her, no longer an insurmountable barrier, but a bridge connecting countless worlds and species. Sarah Chen, human liaison officer, smiled to herself. This wasn't an ending, but a beginning, the start of humanity's grand adventure among the stars. As she turned to rejoin the celebration, Sarah felt a sense of excitement for the challenges and discoveries that lay ahead. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was ready to take its place in the cosmic community. With newfound friends by her side, and the spirit of cooperation lighting the way, the future looked brighter than ever. The Galactic Combat Academy had set out to train the finest peacekeepers in the cosmos. In the process, it had fostered understanding, shattered preconceptions, and paved the way for a more united galaxy. And at the heart of this transformative experience was a human from Earth, proving that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most unexpected sources. As the celebration continued below, Sarah Chen looked to the stars once more, ready for whatever adventures awaited in the vast, beautiful, and ever-surprising cosmos.